very often we get so trapped in looking at our business in the same old way,
Right.
we can't see new opportunities. What we see are the same old problems. So there's nothing more powerful than I think than a really good metaphor to help shift how we're looking at ourselves, our business, and our organization in order to help us identify how do we turn this into an award-winning, a one-of-a-kind, an organization people won't stop talking about, that they want to keep coming back to. So maybe you can just walk us through really a very powerful metaphor that we've been using, and it's really, really been effective with leaders.
It's a simple model. It's a simple question that I pose to teams and their leadership when we get together, and I present this challenge to them. So I want you to use your imagination and think about you've been charged with launching an award-winning play on Broadway 12 months from now. So you got 1 year to launch an award-winning play. I want you to think on the scope of things like Les Misérables, Phantom of the Opera, Cats, plays of that magnitude. Wherever they open around the world, they open to a sold-out theater, right? So think of that scope of success that you want to achieve. You've got 1 year to pull it off, and we've assembled you here today to do the initial planning. And the question is, what are the core elements that you need to pull together and figure out in order to pull this off? And off they go brainstorming and coming up with ideas about how they're going to do this. Well, here are the usual suspects that show up. Well, obviously we're going to need a story. Someone's going to have to write a story, someone's going to have to write a script. This is not going to be a redo of something that exists, this is going to be an original piece. So we need a script, we need a story. Obviously, you're also going to need strong leadership, right? We don't have much time, and we want to make sure that this delivers on time and opens up on Broadway on the date in question to a full theater and to a great success. So we're going to need some strong leadership to pull that off. We're going to need a clear plan to pull this off, a success plan, so to speak, to pull all the elements together and make sure that they're moving at the right pace, that we're hitting those milestones, and that everything is on pace for opening night. The other big one often they'll start to talk about and brainstorm about is cast and crew, right? And often they go to the actors. Well, we're going to need to recruit some great actors to fill those key roles. And often only the few suggest, well, what about the lighting guy? What about the person in the front hall who's welcoming guests? What about the person working the rigging behind the set? There's so many players involved in pulling something off of this magnitude, both front of stage, back of stage, cast and crew, absolutely essential that you recruit the right team to be able to pull this off. Then of course you're going to have to get a great venue. You've got to think of the venue, you've got to think of the stage, and both of those things have to be actually relevant to what you're trying to pull off. If you're trying to pull off a play that perhaps has, in the grand finale, has like all 60 actors up on stage singing the final number, you're going to need a big stage. If you want to sell out crowd to hundreds and hundreds of, and possibly even thousands of attendees, you're going to have to think of the venue. Does the venue and the stage serve what you're trying to pull off? So very, very important to think about that. Then you're going to have to rehearse like crazy. You're going to have to rehearse like there's no tomorrow. Once you have those elements in place, you're going to have to pull it together and go over the parts over and over and over again until you've mastered it. Because again, the goal is to launch on opening night to rave reviews so that your play gets established in the market as something people can't miss and absolutely have to go see. We know that you're going to have to attract your audience, so there's going to be all kinds of things you're going to do to prepare for that, but these are the core elements. And when you think of business, it's no different, right? You need to have a story. And here's what we find many of our leaders, Trev, and you've probably found the same thing. Many of the leaders that we work with initially, they're not clear on what their story is, and neither is their team. Why they're doing it, what are they trying to accomplish, what impact are they trying to have in the marketplace, what is their story. Leadership is an issue we always address, and working on yourself as a leader is critical. And I don't think that's a lesson you ever stop learning or a journey you ever stop progressing along. Leadership is an ever-learning journey. You're going to need a clear strategic plan. And here again is an element we see missing in so many of the businesses we work with initially, is there's a lot of frantic activity, there's a lot of methodless enthusiasm, there's a lot of energy being poured out, but it's not following a plan, it's not following a strategy. Cast and crew, do you have the right people in the right roles? Isn't that a question that needs to be answered, because it's absolutely critical. Sometimes we have the right people, they're in the wrong roles. Sometimes we have the wrong people, and the best thing that we can do is set them free and find the right people so that we can perform at our highest level. Your venue and your stage, see those as your systems. Have you built the systems necessary to actually support the performance or the story that you're trying to tell? And again, that's often an underserved area of the business, is this whole issue of systems and process and the like. Rehearsals, I refer to those as your team meetings. When you get together, if you get together with your team on a regular basis, what is the nature of your conversations? The quality of those conversations actually determines the quality of the organization. So are you rehearsing? Are you going over your activity on a regular basis to find opportunities for learning so that you can master what you do and deliver it in a much more brilliant way to your audience? And ultimately, if you do all of that, you will attract an engaged audience that wants to come back time and time again and gives you the opportunity to tell a story that just keeps echoing out there in the marketplace.
You know, it's so striking as you describe that for us to think about how if you took any single element of that and if it's not top notch, you got a problem.
Right.
Right. If you have second-rate actors, if you've got real confusing script, if the lighting is off, if the venue's too small, too big, too cold, too warm,
right.
in any single one of those areas, you can have critical failure.
Right.
But then you need to bring them all together. So you can have them all, running along, but to integrate them too as well is absolutely amazing. When we go to a show and leave after, we feel different.
Right.
That's why we often go, is because the experience is so immersive, so powerful, so gripping, that we then want to follow that actor, see the follow-on play, go back again, bring
right.
other people. All of these things are so critical. And I think as leaders, our job is to make sure we're designing very deliberately,
right.
using artistry and architecture through this entire process, a very powerful experience that is deliberate, that is focused, and that is consistent.